Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and as always, with me in the virtual room are Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael and I strive to do a perfect job of debating and deliberating the most ubiquitous aspects of a variety of topics. I don't know if we succeed or fail, but it's fun. It's fun to try. And this episode is about the Mount Rushmore of Perfect. Whose choice was it?
This was my choice, and I think it came to me. It came to me drunkenly, but it came to me because I think that there is sometimes like an idea of personal perfection or things. I think there are things that you're like, I'm in this perfect moment. Nothing can get better. Literally nothing can get better. Or there are like things that people do that are like almost literally perfect. There literally is no way to get better than that. And I like the idea of talking about something that has an interpretation of something that is idealized, but as well as something that physically or numerically cannot be better than what it is. And I think that, as people, we're sometimes, I said something to Felix the other day, my son, he's 5 now. Almost 5. And I tried to stress practice makes better rather than practice makes perfect. And he corrected me. I said, well, practice makes better. And he's like, no, practice makes perfect. And I was like, oh, geez, you're fucking 5. And like, I understand that, yes, you've probably been taught this idea of being perfect or whatever, but like, I'm not going to tell him you're never going to get there, whatever you do. But just there is something that we're all striving for at some point in some aspect of our lives that we're trying to be the literal best. They're all good. But I remember at some point like feeling really super accomplished, completing like a perfect load of laundry. Just like everything was done perfectly, everything's folded, didn't screw anything up, didn't dye anything, didn't whatever. And it's just like, man,
how much trouble do you have doing laundry?
I don't. I am incredible at laundry. I am
good.
Anyone who wants to bring laundry over, fine. I will knock it out of the park. If there's things that need to be hung up, I'm good with it. I'm really
all right. I'll be over tomorrow.
Okay, that's great. I'd love to see you. It's been a while. But the point is, I think that the idea of like perfect or perfection or whatever, I think has a lot of emotion behind it, but also has a lot of like mathematics behind it. And I think it's strange when those two things kind of collide.
I knew I had heard perfection is the enemy of in an aphorism, but I didn't know what the enemy was. And in my Google
progress
autocomplete, I see progress.
Yeah.
I
think the idea is that like
excellence,
if you're trying to get something done, don't strive for getting every aspect of it done the exact right way. Try to do a little. If you move the ball down the field a few yards at a time, that's better than like taking Hail Marys and never completing the pass.
Yeah. What's interesting is I think of positive and negative connotations for perfect, and I think we probably embraced the positive ones originally, and now are observing the negative ones, or it seems like perfect is so rare, if not impossible, and the illusion of perfection is so alluring that we are often lost in the pursuit of it and failing all around because of perfect.
Well, and the fact that I think with our modern society, things like social media amplify people appearing to have a perfect life or living a perfect lifestyle, which when we all know, if you scratch the surface, even on the most basic level, it's not accurate.
Right.
But that's kind of the veneer that we're kind of presented by people all the time on like Facebook and Twitter and what have you. So I think that with me, whenever I see someone had a perfect day today, I was like, really? Did you have a perfect day today? You sure your toast wasn't a little bit more burnt than you thought it was going to be?
Yeah. So, for those who may be disappointed, this podcast is not about the 1985 film starring John Travolta and
It's
Jamie Lee
not.
Curtis.
I have all kinds of notes about Mary Lou Henner,
Oh,
Jeff.
okay.
So I'm thoroughly disappointed.
Well, start this. You start off, and we'll see how disappointed you are.
Well, how disappointing I am, I can pretty much guarantee you on that one. So my first choice is the idea of a perfect movie,
Oh,
which is slightly different than the greatest movie. You would think that like, oh, this is the greatest movie of all time would have to be a perfect movie, and that's not necessarily the case. But I think there are certain movies that just could not be improved upon. Like you couldn't recast it.
yeah.
You couldn't change one element of the plot. There wasn't one performance that's a little bit weaker than everybody else's. It's just fundamentally it is solid.
Mm-hmm.
And the example I will give out of this as my choice for a perfect movie is Shaun of the Dead.
Oh,
And I know we talked about this movie before. I know we talked about it in our comedy horror episode with Ben Rock and Bob DeRosa. If you guys want to go back and listen to that, if you're into comedies and horrors, please go listen. So I'll avoid going into this too much into the details of Shaun of the Dead. But I think this is the case with any of the Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright collaborations. I appreciate the level of detail that goes into those movies. Even things such as in Shaun of the Dead, when Sean lays out his game plan for what they're going to do in terms of having a perfect day.
mm-hmm.
It winds up becoming later on, in a very twisted way, exactly what happens in the plot of the movie. You know, they're gonna go see his mom, and then go ring up his girlfriend, then wind up at the Winchester for a bite. And it just winds up becoming, you don't realize it until you watch it back, several times later, that they're actually they're telling you, foreshadowing exactly what's going to happen in the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
And I just, Back to the Future, I think, is a perfect movie. I can't imagine that you could have, there is a version of Back to the Future that gets made with Eric Stoltz that is still a great movie. But it wouldn't have been the perfect casting. Michael J. Fox is, in fact, the perfect casting for Marty McFly. So I appreciate when there's a movie that comes along when you can just go, nope, there's really nothing I would change about that. Because it's easy to see a movie, and even a movie that you really like, go, well, what would have been better what if they would have cast this person in this role? Or what if they would have gotten rid of this C story, or whatever it happens to be? And I just really appreciate that there are some movies out there that just can't do any better than that.
It's funny you talk about one of the things that we can use to rate perfect is how much it adheres to the structure or expectation. And films, like sports, have a lot of structure to them. In golf, if you shot 18, it would be hard to say, or bowling, if you bowled 300, it would be hard to say that those weren't perfect.
Right.
And in a zombie movie, if certain things didn't happen, they would make it less perfect. It has a formalist kind of structure. And so that's interesting that you say that, even though I think what you were saying is they are alluding to a nice day in a normal non-apocalyptic scenario, but it ends up getting fulfilled in an apocalyptic scenario.
Yes.
Yeah, and
exactly.
The bite is not what they expected. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And there's plenty of examples of that within Shaun of the Dead, where little, the initial scene where he's walking through the town, and he kind of like, stumbles upon the kid. There's just all the things that happen to him. And then later on, after the zombie apocalypse, when he makes the same walk through town to get to the local convenience store, it's just everything is off a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just the way that those two scenes have been set up. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
The level of thought that went into that
Yeah.
is just exceptional.
Yeah. It almost seems like Perfect in that case is like that little Zen garden that you get from the Sky Mall catalog or something,
Yes.
in which you
Your
can
little
comb it.
tiny rake.
Yeah, you can comb it in such a way that you can't imagine that it would look any more symmetrical or square or whatever. It seems like films can be like that too.
Yeah.
Ah, fun. Okay, Mike, what you got?
My first choice is the reason that I thought of this, which is the third margarita. Like at some point you're having like a margarita and it like you're fine. It tastes good. It's great. At the end of a long day, it's great. Second margarita is just like piggybacking on the first one, but like at the end of the third margarita, you feel like just great.
Yeah.
And then you start going into like, oh, don't have that fourth one.
Yeah.
You want to exist in this like kind of space of like having fully enjoyed the taste and the flavor and everything and being a little buzzed, but not like drunk where like you're going to just get into an argument with somebody over like the chip basket or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes if you're like having a drink, you're trying to like reach a level of a perfect balance of like being with it, being able to be within a conversation and lively and having fun without like getting past the point where it's like, oh, this guy and his fucking, what's he doing? And I think that for me, a third margarita is perfect. I don't need anything more. I
Mhm.
don't, if I have something less, I'm always like being like, I should probably get another one. But I know that if I get like that fourth one, I'm like, what are you doing? There's what's the point of it? It's too much sugar.
Mhm.
It's too much salt. It's too much everything. And you just want to kind of live in that little, it's like curling. Like
Mm-hmm.
you want to get close enough to the center, but not get too far, stay too far away. You don't want to place your rock, you just want to get to that nice, perfect point where you're just feeling really, really good about every aspect of like whether your meal and your conversation and your
Mhm.
night out. And maybe it's, it's, I don't know how many times I've been out with friends and at a bar and you're just having like, I don't know, 4 or 5 drinks and you're just like, it either isn't doing it for you, like whatever alcohol is that you're drinking or you're moving back and forth between things, just like, I
Mhm.
just feel angry and bored. I don't know. But like for me, the third margarita is just like this really weird key thing that's just like, perfect, feel great. It's just I'm not going to make another one, not going to order another one. I feel great.
That's an interesting observation. Not every case is the direct is imperfection right after perfection. Like if you bowled you can't bowl a 301 and screw it up, you know. But
Yeah.
that observation that on your ability to ride to the very crest of the wave without wiping out is
Yeah, and
an
it's not,
yeah.
it's because you're not trying to like necessarily get drunk. You're not trying to like get to the point where you're just so like you're smashed and you're whatever, but you're just trying to like be in this nice little zone for I don't know an hour or so, where you're just like conversation is just weirdly better. Like the jokes,
Yeah.
are just,
Yeah.
the jokes are just funnier. The conversation is better. That God, these chips that weren't that great an hour ago at dinner. Wow, they really. I'll have another one of those.
Do you feel like that is a observation of an internal of self mastery? So you have observed this outside stimulant and the amount of that outside stimulant that you're supposed to use, but then if you were to overdo it, then you would have this sense of gluttony or stupidity that
Yeah,
you.
it's your own personal limits and whatever comes to it. It's I don't want to feel like I don't want to get to a point where I felt like I built up like a tolerance where I'm like trying to outdrink myself.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to be like, if we record this, 3 years from now and be like the fourth margarita. And now I feel like that's a bad
Let me
place.
tell you, the eighth margarita. I'm okay. That's the great one.
Yeah.
I have diabetes and alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, I'm getting
Girl
that
drink
bit.
drunk.
I think that there's just a very funny thing where you just like it's a bit of a know thyself sort of moment, and maybe that's what being perfect.
Yeah.
Not that I am perfect, but achieving a sense of perfection on like your evening or whatever is just like you're just getting to a point where you're like, oh, I understand that this is what it takes. Whatever your third margarita is.
Yeah.
May you all reach that. Amen.
Manfredi.
All right, so you mentioned bowling a perfect game a couple of times, so that's my second choice.
Oh, good.
And I will just throw that out there that it was for a number of years in high school, the bane of my existence was not being able to bowl a perfect game.
Wow.
I could get very close. I could string. I think the most I ever strung together was 10 in a row, 10 strikes in a row, but they weren't at the start of the game. It was like I think I had a spare or split or something, and then 10 in a row, and then a spare or something like that, or then like a 9. I think I've been able. I would regularly get 6 or 7 in a row to start a game, and that's suddenly a lot of pressure. And it's like you don't realize how much, even in just like doing this in a tournament in some like junior bowling league somewhere, you don't realize how much mentally you stop being able to just naturally do the things that come easily to you when you have that pressure of perfection on you. And so after like ball number 7, strike number 6 or 7, suddenly it's like, wait, I could actually do this. I just need to do, 4 more good shots, and you've already done 8 of them, so this shouldn't be that hard. Just do the thing that you've been doing, and it'll all work out. And it's just really difficult to mentally. It's like when you try to remember how to breathe, sort of thing. If you try and like go or trying to, when you can't go to sleep and you're trying to, okay, how did I go to sleep last night? Once you get into that, it's all screwed up. Once you start trying to remember how to do this thing that should come naturally to you, that's where all the problems come in. So for me, the idea of I think if I were, I almost feel like if a perfect game, if it was to bowl 15 strikes in a row, it would make it a hell of a lot easier for me to bowl 12 strikes in a row. If that makes sense. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm trying to get at.
That's interesting there, because that almost seems like self-mastery also, but again,
Excuse me, Jeff. This is a family show. Let's self-mastery, please.
There's no abuse like self-abuse. That's what Grandpa said. Well, the pressure that comes from hovering around the event horizon of perfection, knowing that even seeking it is about to smash you and all your matter and obliterate every
I
particle.
can't imagine what I would have looked like if I had gotten to like 11 strikes in a row at any point. I would have been, sweat just spurting off of my face.
So was it the adoration of the women swooning at the feet of every 300 bowler?
Yes, you want to get laid, you get a 300 game. All the ladies at freeway lanes will come running. Tell you that right now. No, it's just personal pressure. I had friends who had bowled 300 games. I was comparable with them in terms of like averages and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just for whatever reason, it was a mental block that I could never get over.
Yeah. Was it the Jesus taunting you as he shined his ball in his pink
licked his ball. Yeah, must have been it.
Talk about self-mastery. Okay, the second one from Michael.
I'll stay within sports, and I will talk about the perfect game in baseball. And now, not to crap all over Richard's sports choice, a 300 game in bowling seems to have been done many times by many
Sure.
yahoos all over the world at any time. Certainly, Richard almost has come close, apparently, to doing said feat. But in the 200,
I'm a near Yahoo. Thanks, Jeff or Michael.
yeah, Yahoo Jace. In the 218,400 plus Major League Baseball games that have been played, there have only been 23 recognized perfect games, which, looking at my little calculator I have here, is 0.000105% of games.
So that's not a no-hitter. What is it?
It's a no-hitter combined with no errors.
Oh,
It's basically 18
and
batters.
no walks.
Wow. Okay.
What is it? 9, 18,
27
batters. 27 batters have come up and 27 batters have been put out with no walks, no hits, no runs scored. And there have only been 23 in the history of this game that has gone on for 150 years.
Wow.
On the major league level, or however they've deemed it. And I think that thing is so crazy. I mean, just the number and the mathematics. When I'm talking about the mathematics of something versus the feeling of something, this is what I'm referring to. Is there's just the mathematical. It's so hard to do because to not walk someone seems almost impossible. To no hitters happen pretty frequently, right, Richard? I would say. I mean, but for someone to have not gotten anyone on base, not made a mistake, not had the defense make a mistake and an error, all these things have to happen throughout the course of a 3-hour game. That, like, I thought of the 300 bowling game, but it's you against these 10 pins and one ball. It's not these 10 other people that you're these 27 other people you're playing against. I guess it would be 9 or however many it is. It's not this other team behind you that you're relying on to make these outs as well. It's not the scorer or whatever. It's all these different things that factor into this baseball game, and that it happens so infrequently is wild. Is that it happens at all is wild. It's something that is so far out there. I mean, I don't think they don't have like these perfect games. I don't know. No one ever talks about a perfect game in golf. No one talks about a perfect game in basketball or football. There are no such things, but baseball leads itself, I guess, in bowling, obviously, but in baseball, it's this weird thing that can happen. And it's kind of this weird magical thing. It's strange to read about it and see the history that 3 of these 23 happened in 2012. The last time this thing happened, 3 of them happened in 1 year, which is such an aberration of a statistic that seems impossible. Can you imagine getting the first perfect game in 2012 and then it happened again and then it happened again? Like the thing that happens once, every dozen years or so that are these hallmark events. Very strange. And I do like that when it happens to like weird random pitchers that aren't like masters of their game and they don't go on to do anything else. That's the best. That's the best when a schlub gets like a perfect game and you're like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now.
Is it something coaches even say? Like they don't say go out and I guess each department, each person is trying to not make an error or to not screw up. But would a coach even say that?
I don't think so.
No, you don't want to jinx anything.
Okay. Almost seems like if you told your football team. Okay, let's, we want to get a touchdown, but don't run into anybody.
I like that.
Try not to bump into anybody.
I like that aspect too. I love the weird psychosis behind it and the weird superstition behind, like, at some point someone has got like a no-hitter going into like 7 innings or 6 innings. So nobody starts talking to the pitcher, and then the broadcasters stop talking about it and the people in the stands stop talking about it.
Or they talk about it. The announcers will talk about it in a really cryptic way. Instead of saying he's been perfect through 7, it's, he's allowed the minimum number of batters through 7 innings, or there have been 21 batters so far.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
What? Yeah. I find it interesting too, is because it seems like there is an external and an internal perfection we're striving for. Richard, when you described that, that state that you were in of knowing that you had the skill to accomplish the act of throwing a strike, that your body knew what to do, but that once you had an awareness of this external opportunity to bowl a 300, that's when all of those mechanisms were threatened because of the state of of perfection that was attempting. So you could not accomplish inner perfection, meaning just a mechanism performing the act without any emotion, or insecurity or stress, because of the external desire for perfection.
Yeah, I can't fathom what it's like to be an actual major league pitcher.
Yeah.
And be 2 outs in the 9th and staring down one batter that you got to get out, or at least not walk, or, don't hit him with the ball. I just can't fathom what the thoughts that would be going through a pitcher's brain while all of this is happening. Yeah, it's funny, Michael, you mentioned that there hasn't been a no-hitter in 10 years now, or not a no-hitter, a perfect game in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of discussion about how we may not see many perfect games moving forward, just because the nature of how pitching has changed. It's less about get the ball over the plate, throw strikes. It's okay if they get it, put it into play, as long as you make them get outs. And it's more about lots of curve, lots of speed, lots of power. You're going to get a ton of strikeouts, but you're probably also going to walk some people. So while you might see more no-hitters in the future, there's a decent chance that you're going to see less perfect games than you have in the past. I just find that interesting.
Yeah, I think it's such like this weird solitary baseball pinnacle of achievement for a particular pitcher. Like, they don't say like, this is a perfect game pitched, or, put on by the Los Angeles Angels, because it is a team effort. I mean, it relied on the pitcher, but the pitcher does, X amount of the work or X percentage of the work, and the hitters at a particular time are failing at a very specific point. But then also the fielders, they have to do so much of the, like, I'm sure they are so conscious at every moment of like, okay, it's the 7th inning and there's 2 outs and the best hitter is up, and I've got to make whatever play is possible just to preserve this thing. And then what if this guy doesn't have the stuff to go past 7 innings usually? What if this guy's usually pulled by the 6th inning? Like, all these different things that must go into achieving this thing, this piece of glory. I don't know. It's also interesting. I was just thinking of, I know we need to move on to halftime, but like, can you imagine being one of these weird schlubby pitchers that is one of the 20 something people that have achieved this thing, and then you don't get into the Hall of Fame because the rest of your career was just so middling? Man, if you pitch a perfect game, how about you automatically just like get into the Hall of Fame? Like, no matter what the rest of your career looked like, just like, man, we got to this person has to be represented in some way. I don't know.
I had a coach who was a Taekwondo competitor, and when he would compete at a Pan American Games or some kind of qualifying something, and whenever he won, you just get a belt. they bump you up a level. And so there were times when he was fighting that he was like, I gotta kick this guy's ass if I want to be 8th level. And there was a time when he just lost, and he was like, it was one of his last matches, and he knew he was going to retire at a 5th degree black belt versus a 6 because he lost that match.
Oh. So. But let's be honest, Jeff, you could have taken him, right?
I could have taken him.
Like if push came to shove, because he might be good at the taekwondo flippy hold stuff.
Yeah,
but you would have like bit him.
Yeah, that's right.
If you had to.
Yeah, he doesn't know tire tool. I know tire tool. I pull that thing out of my trunk, start swinging it. Okay, so this is our opportunity to invite you to give us the perfect topic. We're waiting. We are we are standing at the top of the mountain waiting for somebody to come up and knock us off with the perfect topic. And that could be contributed to us via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You let us know what you'd like us to discuss next time. We'll probably do it. And then we'd like you to do us a solid download, rate, and review past episodes. It would be really cool if you would let us know what you think. You could choose 1 star. You could choose 5 stars. Just let us know. We need feedback. And we would be grateful for that.
I would welcome a 0-star review. If you can get us all the way, sure, get us all the way down. Because they say, oh, the more stars, maybe you can just like flip it in reverse, like your search filter, like look for the worst podcast.
Oh,
let's do that. Let's
Facebook,
not be middling.
Like social media content that creates controversy and anger is also some of the top performing. The algorithm loves that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Search for the best. No. Let's do us. We've reached the level. Search for the worst.
So yeah,
we might not be the worst. Like literally, we're possibly. We've been doing this for so long, and we've had 0 budget, and we've made 0 money, and there's lots of zeros that I'm talking about. But let's get to the point where I don't know. Let's be known for being like the worst rated podcast.
Okay. So this is not a heel turn. It's just a quality drop, right?
Well, no, it's just like
it's in the world of go big or go home. This is go home.
This is go home.
Yeah, let's go. Everybody go home on us.
Okay, audience, you'll tune in next week to our next episode and see how much mediocrity.
45 minutes of just static.
Yeah.
And like annoying static, that like you keep adjusting the dial and it keeps getting worse and worse somehow.
And that's where we'll get the comments. I find this preferable. Oh, thank you. So what's your third, Richard?
All right. So my third is The Perfect Crime.
Oh, love this. Whatever this is.
I will tell you what I think the perfect crime is because Wikipedia told me what the perfect crime is. In January of 2009, $6.8 million worth of jewelry was taken from the cases of a department store in Berlin known as Kadiwi. And there are 3 thieves who were caught on surveillance cameras coming in from the skylights, breaking the security system, and getting the jewels.
This was also the storyline of the Great Muppet Caper, if I remember correctly.
And then they broke into
They
broke into John Cleese's house. No, the police did find some evidence. They found a drop of sweat in a latex glove that had been thrown away.
Oh wow!
And they were able to run it through the German crime database, and they got not just 1 hit but 2 hits on it because it belonged to a set of Lebanese immigrant twins.
Wow. And
the problem was because they couldn't tell you which one of the two's DNA it was, they couldn't use it as evidence in a trial.
Oh.
Because you can't say, because one could say, well, I wasn't there. It must have been my brother who did it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The other one would say the same thing, and there would be no way to prove it because identical twins have identical DNA. So they had to drop the case.
They had the 50-50 millionaire clue, and they couldn't use that to get a little bit more evidence and try one of the the dude?
they they tried, but they just couldn't get it narrowed down to either proof that both of them were there or that any one of them were there. So,
Wow.
I mean, if it's you or I and they find a spot of our sweat inside a glove at the crime scene, we're screwed. So, the lesson here, kids, make sure you have an identical. If you have an identical twin, listeners,
Yeah.
just go on a crime spree. They can't stop you. It's pretty much free money at this point for you. Just go.
Also, like put whatever glove you're wearing in your pocket.
Yes. That's a very
Have
OJ move by whoever dropped that one.
you have pants with extra pockets and be like, okay, this is my designated glove disposal pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Nobody's-
I was gonna say you always picture like jewel thieves having like skin tight, really like form fitting clothes, but I would say cargo pants might be the way to go, is what
Yeah.
you're suggesting. Lots of pockets.
Also good if you're going to like the park with like your son, because you can put like the sippy cup in there, and
Yep.
it can fit the goldfish. Yeah,
Sitcom premise.
I love the idea, Richard. I love the idea of the perfect crime, something that has been like masterfully planned, someone that like there's this genius arch villain that has thought of um, every scenario, every outcome, every out for his like escape plan or whatever. Um, but what I also love about like the master criminal who has this perfect plan, they always hire like the dumbasses. Like at some point, part of
Yeah.
the master plan is also like including like, okay, we need schlubs to do dumbass work. That's part of it. Like
Yeah.
you need like bullies, and you need like tough guys and ruffians.
Yeah,
We
who's going to
need
carry
this-
gold bricks except schlubs?
Yeah, yeah. The people with like the manicured fingernails that have like perfected the way that they can, pick a lock, are not the people that are just like lugging things in like burlap sacks.
Yeah.
And I love this idea that there's just like that these villains also rely on dumb people for so much of their work constantly. And that's just written. Maybe that's just written into like the mathematics of it all. They're like, well, you know what? At some point, we got to get the dumbs in here.
Who is Lex Luthor's sidekick? I forget what his name is.
Ned Beatty.
Yeah. Yeah. The Ned Beatty character.
Otisburg.
Otis.
Yeah.
Otisburg. Mr. Luthor, I just thought that.
You know what's funny is when you described that, I feel like you described the perfect criminal, not the perfect crime. It seems like the perfect criminal is one you cannot gather evidence against.
Yeah, but you have to be a perfect criminal to commit the perfect crime. Do you not?
I don't know. My baseball analogy seems that you can be like kind of a just out of AAA pitcher that can somehow, pitch a perfect game, but then never be heard from again.
So you're saying that you could be a criminal and just blunder into the perfect crime.
There is a Rowan Atkinson movie that we need to write.
Okay, Michael, your third one is what?
Okay, my third one feels like it's of part and parcel of that, and it is the wrestler, Mr. Perfect.
That's my last choice, by the way.
Oh,
Is
wow.
it really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll double up then. But Mr. Perfect, what I love about him is his there are two aspects about Mr. Perfect that I love. One is that as a professional wrestler, everyone loved to work with him because he was very methodical. He was very good at what he did. He was a good worker in the ring. He was very protective of how he treated you, and like it was an easy match apparently to wrestle with Kurt Hennig because he was great at it. He was muscular and strong, but conscious of what was happening. But then the other aspect is that this guy that was so arrogant, like his entire persona was because of this. He was so good at it that he was so perfect as a wrestler that he could do no wrong. That everything about him was literally perfect. He was this perfect specimen of a body and all these different things. um, he would shoot these vignettes of him bowling a perfect game or
Mm-hmm.
throwing an 80-yard touchdown to
To
himself.
himself. Yeah.
Like I love the arrogance of being perfect, right? I think that's what you kind of both of you kind of spoke to at the beginning of the episode regarding like this kind of online perfection that you're projecting out to the universe. To you want everyone, or everyone wants to be like you because of everything you do is so great. But at the same time, he never got past the intercontinental level status of winning a wrestling belt. Being perfect wasn't necessarily about winning the heavyweight championship belt, which was like the ideal thing for anyone to do. I mean, Hulk Hogan held it for so many years because of that. But he was like the Intercontinental Champion for a long period of time. And like, no offense to the Intercontinental Champion, but it is second tier to the Heavyweight Championship. And I love that this guy who is billed as being perfect and did things perfectly and executed things perfectly, he still never got out of like second gear or whatever.
That's interesting. That reading about him and how much esteem, as you said, his colleagues held, especially in something in which wrestling is something that has components that are, say, not spontaneous, that are, and some that are, that one could prepare meticulously and prepare themselves as an athlete meticulously for something that pretends to have so much chaos in it. And that's really. And so, Richard, why did you choose Mr. Perfect?
Mainly because of the vignettes that they ran,
Yeah.
that Michael talked about, which were freaking phenomenal. You know,
Mhm.
there's one where he's just hitting home runs and Wade Boggs is there like amazed. Like, I can't believe this guy's hitting all these home runs. And the acting is like, you know, Z grade level. Which they've got like, you know, this NFL player sitting there with mouth wide open watching Mr. Perfect. Like
Uh-huh.
Michael said, throw an 80-yard bomb and then run down the field and catch it himself. Or throw a bullseye every time in darts or whatever it happened to be.
Yeah. Was
And it
that
was,
inspired by the Bono's campaign or
I think
anything
it
like that?
was. It would have been around the same time. Let's see. It would have been 90 or it would have been 88. So yeah, that's right around the Bono's period. So I suspect there was some element of that creeping into it.
Uh-huh.
I think that was the thing that I was really quite astounded with. I assumed that at least within like the WWF, like Mr. Perfect was around like in the um, later part of the 80s or the mid part of the 80s, but he didn't really kind of come into the WWF until like the early 90s, like maybe 1990. I was
89.
surprised he would 89. Oh, well, there you go. Okay, I'm splitting the difference, but like it felt like he was so much more. Maybe it just speaks to his like presence within the wrestling oeuvre. Like I thought he was around a lot earlier than that.
Well, you might remember him from his time in AWA, which was on ESPN at the time.
I honestly, there is an element of like wrestling, like anything that didn't hit WWF, I have no memory of. Like I
Well,
don't
it may be
like
like a
any
vague
like
sort of like ghost of a memory that you have of him. I'm sure.
could be.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably watched some AWA wrestling. It was on at like 4 o'clock on weekdays. So
I
coming home
guess
from
so.
school would have been the perfect time to see it.
Possibly, but there's definitely like an. It's like at some point in the when I started collecting comic books in like the kind of early '90s, I only was reading like Marvel comics. Like I had a vague awareness of what was happening in like DC, but it feels the same thing with it feels the same way with like all these other wrestling affiliations or WCW.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one more, Michael, from you, and
Oh,
just want to
yeah.
know ahead of time: did either of you pick any music?
No.
I didn't.
I'm challenging you before we wrap to choose a fifth bonus of a perfect
Great.
song.
I can tell you exactly what it is.
Okay.
When we get to number 5, I'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, I
But my
can too.
fifth, yeah, my fourth choice is the uh, in the video game Street Fighter 2. If you defeat somebody without taking a hit or taking any damage, there's this sound drop where the announcer says "perfect," and it is this thing that lives within my head as this moment of like just such personal like vindication of a thing that in theory shouldn't be that important within playing the game. You play this game and you just want to defeat your enemy, whoever you're playing, and get to the next level and whatever. You're just trying to get through it. But um, the sound drop and the way that the computer voice says "perfect" is something that is so like embedded in me as this thing of like, oh, if I can defeat Dalsim without getting a hit, that seems like something that I should really strive to do. If I can, I got to take out Chun-Li and do it. Not only do it, but be perfect at it. And I don't ever remember prior to that ever feeling this notion of like, not only do I have to get through and play this video game, but I have to be perfect at it. I've got to do everything in it. I think there was a moment later on when I was playing Donkey Kong Country on like the Super Nintendo, where I had to get like every little gold token thing, had to complete every level with getting every coin. Maybe there's just a notion of like, oh, I can play this game, but not only can I defeat the game, but I can do it perfectly. Oh, that is a new thing to strive for. And I think that video games kind of develop this sort of language about not only playing the game, but achieving every goal within a game, collecting every star, or doing everything to a point where like you cannot do the game any better. You've played the game so much, you've tried to achieve so much. And I think it weirdly, or it feels like it has these roots in Street Fighter of playing against another combatant and doing it without taking any hits and doing it perfectly. And I don't know what it is. There's just something about that, those two syllables together. It's just like, oh, you hear it and you're just like, so you feel so proud of yourself. I don't know.
I'm fascinated by the reward for perfect, how it can be something, some 8-bit, like what, have you in your life ever strived to, get enough skee ball tickets so you can get this silly spider ring or something like that?
The slightly larger lizard.
Yeah. Yeah. And then even the kind of the invention of perfect, it almost seems like an imaginary number that, was Descartes would have invented or something. It is inattainable, but yet as a concept, it is something that's very powerful. But that's interesting. And how trivial and counterfeit the reward can be. Was it searching for Bobby Fischer or something where he wants Ben Kingsley to just give him the the document after this kid has shown his incredible mastery of chess. But it turns out since he's just a little kid, he wants the little certificate that he was supposed to get or something that was entirely trivial compared to winning all these championships. But
there's no other podcast that is going to go from Street Fighter to
Bobby Fischer.
Secret of Bobby Fischer in the scope of 1.5 minutes. Congratulations.
We did it.
We did it.
We did it. Okay, so bonus round. The perfect song, Richard, is what?
There She Goes by The Laws.
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely. It's definitely the perfect power pop.
Yeah.
Song.
It's and my definition is it doesn't have to be a long song. I think that any song over like 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes probably, is too long to be perfect. And it doesn't have to have a lot of moving parts. It doesn't have to be good vibrations. It doesn't have to be this like mini pocket, masterpiece or something like that. It doesn't have to be the wall of sound. It can just be where every note is the right note for that point in time. And
at that point, you did indicate how we live in a culture in which more is more, but perfect is less very frequently. And that song might come in at 2 minutes 37 seconds. There's some Beatles songs that come in at 2:15.
And the fact that the guy from The Laws, the lead singer and songwriter, whose name is I'm just totally blanking on right now.
It's L.A. Mavers.
Is that who it is?
Which made me think his band was called the LAs, for a while. It's yeah. Sorry,
But he was like a notorious perfectionist, and it took them hundreds of takes to get the song right. And in fact, that's the story, is that they never made a follow-up album because he wound up basically becoming so much of a perfectionist that it was impossible to get anything recorded.
Yeah, I think his band didn't like him. I don't think. Yeah, it's almost like if Rivers Cuomo went too far off the deep end.
Yeah, but I guess my point is that maybe that's eventually what winds up happening to people who search for perfection and actually get close to it.
Yeah.
Like, where do you go from there after you've created this, like, just little perfect 3-minute pop song?
Mm-hmm. Was it on the, I forget on the So I Married an Axe Murderer.
For sure.
There's a cover of it 100%. On the. There's an album with 12 songs on it, soundtrack. There's 2 versions of that song on that soundtrack, and it's both. I remember playing both in order and going, I don't know which is better, because it's just, if you can write a great song that any schmo can cover it, like, I don't know, Feelings, Yesterday,
right,
Strangers in the Night, then that's a pretty dang good song. So, what do you got, Manfredi or Winfield?
Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
Which I think is a perfect song, and I think the best song ever written. But it's one of those songs that captures every aspect about, like, it's haunting, and it has these really heartbreaking lyrics, but can be kind of misconstrued as a love song as well. And his Ian Curtis's vocals are just so kind of soft and emotional in it, and I don't know, just to me, it's just a song that, like, there's no aspect of the song that can be better. And then you hear, like, different covers of the song, and they're like, oh yeah, you know what you're doing. This is a great version of the song. It's a song that is, like, the best possible song that can be covered as well as being a perfect song. And I think that's what I think has so many just extensions or deep roots or something. It can be interpreted in so many different ways and sung differently that it's just perfect to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And he didn't have any problem following up that song, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What a fun topic. We picked the perfect topic.
Yes, we did.
We sure did.
We can't do any better than this, so we're shutting it down. Pasta next week, and then we're good to
go. Because it was personal, and it just helped color in a little bit more about the ill-spent youth of Richard Manfredi.
My pursuit of bowling perfection.
Yeah. The pursuit of bowling perfection.
Love it.
And since you guys both did Mr. Perfect, I super dig that. And the perfect game in baseball, I think, is really interesting for me, because I didn't know there was anything more than a no-hitter. I thought there was something. I thought that was the most you could do. So that was really cool. And as much as I love There She Goes, Love Will Tear Us Apart has some really rich, deep texture and some kind of sorrow attached to it. In a way, people like James Dean or Elvis or whatever kind of live in perfection because they ended up leaving us too soon, but too early to become imperfect. So that's kind of really compelling to me. So cool. Is that 4?
That's 4.
Yeah.
All right. This has been the Mount Rushmore of Perfect. I'm always Jeff.
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.